How you doing, guys? Today I am continuing some work on my 1955 Wheelhorse Senior. I don't know exactly when this portion of the build is going to be put up, but in last month, February 2025, it was 8 years ago that I bought this old girl. It sat right where you're seeing it right now for about a year before I started the project. So I've been picking at this thing for 7 years. If you go through the playlist, it's actually kind of really sad how long this thing has taken. But we're at the cusp of finishing it up. Today, what I'm hoping to get done is get the steering box in place, get the steering arms in place. I got the seat spring here. I got to wash that, get the seat spring mounted, put the seat back on it. And what else? We got a couple other things that I would like to get done too. In the prior videos, I went through the entire steering box, steering column rebuild. One of the reason why I got it popped apart is I played with the shaft, so I misaligned center. So I wanted to pull the cover off, recenter the arm. I think that might be called the pitman arm. I don't know yet. I think the pitman arm is the little arm that sticks down to the link. But whatever. This, the arm inside the box that actually moves the pitman arm to steer the tractor. I wanted to recenter it, and then as you can see, the grease is settled. So this, I'm going to pack more grease in there and then put the side cover on. We'll adjust the tension on it, and then I'll show you how we install it on that tab. I went ahead and actuated the arm back and forth. The worm gear would pick up grease and pull it into the steering box. I packed it in there with my fingers. And as you can see, I have a pretty good amount. This whole thing is filled with grease. Over the years, I just had Mobil 1 synthetic grease. It's not of any particular reason other than I had some. There was some grease already in the lid, and I'm going to go ahead and flip the lid over and screw it down. I cleaned the gasket. I cleaned this surface up fairly well. The big thing is when you do the adjustment, and I'm going to show you how to do that in 1 second. But I just wanted to give a little overview of how this looks. I do have the arm straight up and down, right in the middle. And once I get the cap on, I'll take a Sharpie marker and just make a mark on it. So that way I know it's in the center when I put it on the tractor. With the side cover mounted, we have an adjustment screw. And what this screw does is it sets preload on the actuator arm. Now this actuator arm, if I had two hands, I could show you, but this thing slides in and out. We do have a brand new seal. I have made my mark with a Sharpie that tells me that it's been centered, but we got a brand new seal. Everything is good and clean. And it's a fine line setting this. So in other words, you want to just feel a little bit of preload when this bolt or when the adjustment screw is all the way in. Keep in mind that this arm does kind of rotate in and out as it's moving along the worm gear. So you don't want to take this and crank it right down and jam nut the thing down, because all you do is you put undue stress on this little cast iron cover. And in a lot of cases, these are cracked on seniors. Either through one, there's too much preload put on this adjustment bolt, and that causes it to crack, or water eventually migrates into the steering box, freezes, and then it either pops out the freeze plug or it will crack the lid. So I'm just going to take this and just I can even take this nut off. We don't even need that. Just take this. Looks like a big set screw. I'm going to pull it, turn it until I just feel it touch. Okay. I'm going to keep on going. All right, right there. That's basically where that's right where I feel it's getting tight. So I'm going to back it off just a hair. Maybe about 1/8. Yeah, we'll do a full quarter turn, right? Yeah, we'll do a full quarter turn. I'll check the in and out play of the shaft, and then I'll hold it with this screwdriver and then tighten it down, tighten this jam nut down, and that's all she wrote. We can go ahead and install it in the frame. with everything all adjusted and lined up, you can get the steering box into the senior without taking the transmission out. If you try to go in straight, try to get the thing around, it's not going to work. What you need to do is you need to twist it so the corner of the steering box kind of goes over here where the clutch arm is, and then it'll come right in, and it should basically fall right into place on the hood stand. I do have these 2 3/8 bolts. These actually came off of an old Ford transmission, which are the same exact bolts as in the rear here. They're not the original bolts that held the steering box in place, but I am going to just use these because they look the part. Going to put those in, tighten them down, and then we'll talk about the exhaust the exhaust clamp that holds the upper portion of the steering shaft. It's installed. One of the things that I learned as I was putting this together was to leave those 2 3/8 bolts loose. So it's pretty much tightened on, but you still have a little bit of wiggle room. That way you could line this top section of the steering tube with the with the exhaust clamp that's original welded to the hood stand, and then just make sure that the bolt ends, I don't know if I can show you this, I can't really, but both these are the same length, and then just bring those in nice until they're snugged up. I did put a little blue Loctite, and I do have a set of lock washers. Once the lock washers were crushed and I felt a little tension, that's where I stopped, because I didn't want to cause a buckle in the new tube, which I don't believe I did. That looks pretty darn good. And I try to use all the original hardware so that way it all matched. I did get the pitman arm on. I believe I believe the little arm in the box is right in the middle. So I have full throw in both directions. I did fiddle with it, and then I kind of forgot to look, but I only fiddled with it a little bit, so it should be fine. Put the arm on, got a new jam nut for it. I haven't tightened that down yet. It's finger tight. So it's pushed itself onto the shaft a little bit. I'll get an adjustable wrench or a wrench and tighten that down, snug it down, and that should be all set. Next up, I can get the link that goes to the front end. I do have the little clamps for the adjustment rods, the tie rods, so I'll go ahead and have to just unscrew these and put those clamps on both of the rods. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff out, and I'll show you the part numbers that I have that I used for those new end links. The tie rods are in place. End links are brand new, as I indicated. There's left-hand threads and right-hand threads. I don't know which one is which right now, but that way you can turn the arm and it'll shorten or lengthen each rod. The clamps are loose. I'll leave those loose until I finalize the alignment. One of the things that you will see is that pitman arm, I guess you want to call it, is a little bit off center. It's not straight up and down. And the reason for that is if I take this and clock it one more tooth, it really makes it, there was very little adjustment allowed from the end links, because with that bar just a little bit forward, I had to screw in the end links quite a bit. So I decided to go maybe 2 teeth, I can't remember, over from center, because right now the steering shaft is set where the wheels are straight. So just kicked it like 1 or 2 teeth over. That gives me enough room, so now I can make a lot of adjustment in and out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's never going to hit the frame full throw in either direction. This arm only goes to about right here. Travels about maybe 1.25 inches to maybe 1.5 inches. I don't even think that travels that much. So that's that. For the end links, these are the ones that I used. If I remember correct, I got these at Napa. If I remember correctly, I used a 1947 Jeep for the part numbers. Right-hand thread, left-hand thread. I still have the grease fittings and the cotter pins in the boxes, so I'm not going to throw those boxes away quite yet. It's kind of funny because look at the top of that one. Look at the top of this one. Look at the top of that one. They're all the same. But then course, you got to get an oddball. They can't all look the same. So I put the oddball looking one over here because when you look at the tractor, those three are the ones that you really see. So, oh well, it was what was in the box. It works perfectly. Next up, I want to go ahead and put the seat spring in. I am going to have to cut the 1/2-inch bolts that I got down. The bolts that I got, I'll have to cut them down about a thread to give me a little bit more relief in the on the axle tube. Here's the lock washers, and the seat spring is right there all cleaned up. So let me go ahead and get that installed. For gear lube in the transmission, gearbox, rear end, or the banjo rear end, and the gear cases, I thought you could just put 80W90 in there, but senior folklore plus talking to some people, this is really the oil that you need to have, which is a 600W axle and transmission lubricant. I guess back in the day, early Fords, this is what they used. It's kind of an interesting read on the bottle. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but essentially, you know, Ford used this style oil because the oil seals that they had back in the day weren't the greatest in the world. And this oil itself, this gear lube, clung to the gears, kind of, I guess, kind of like an assembly lube, if you want to call it that much. You know what I mean? It'd be so bold to say, but ordered it up. Actually, I got this off of eBay from a early Ford place. So it's expensive. It's not the cheapest oil on planet Earth, but you know, basically what it says here is the following chart was taken from a Model A Ford service bulletin: transmission 1 pint, which is basically 1/2 quart. Rear axle 1.5 pints, so 1.5 quarts, and then we've got to fill the gear cases up with whatever it could take. So first up, I'm going to mark about half a quart, and we're going to go ahead and dump that into the transmission. Oh, which, by the way, goes right in here in the side of the transmission. I got the main plug on the bottom tightened up and sealed up, so that shouldn't be any problems. So let's go ahead and squirt that gear lube in there.
At this point, I'm filling up the middle gearbox between the transmission and the torque tube, and what I'm looking at with the flashlight is the inspection hole to see where the level is.
She's got gear lube. Yeah, wow. I'm really stoked. We are so close to having this 55 Senior finished. All the plugs are in. Everything is pretty much ready to go. Oh, I got to tighten up those. I haven't tightened up the top ones. I'll do that right now. The bottom ones are done. I did use a little Teflon tape on a couple of the plugs because they were a little bit, not loose, but it just makes me feel better. I'll just get a wire brush and brush off the Teflon tape from around the edges. That's what I did right there. Makes it go away. Same thing over here. I put a little Teflon tape on this plug itself too. Then once it's all seated and tight, I just take a, yeah, you can see it right there, a little piece of it right there. I just take a wire brush, I brush it, takes the excess off. You can't even tell that it's there. And because it's a gearbox, not an engine, you never use Teflon tape on an engine, but in a gearbox, it doesn't matter. So I got a little bit over a half a quart in the transmission, took a half a quart almost in that gearbox, 1.5 quarts in the rear, half a quart. So, and I used all of it was that 600 weight oil, which is, I guess, close to 250 weight, equivalent to a 250 weight gear lube. But it's really, this stuff is really like an engine assembly lube. It just sticks to everything. I mean, it's just, you can see it in the bottle. It's not quite as thick as like assembly lube, but it is just as tacky. What a mess. But it's in, it's all set to go. We got the steering column and steering box in place. We did the arms. We're right there. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you could please like, share, and subscribe. And please, if you would, come back, because we are going to get this old girl running for the first time in probably, it's got to be at least 30 years, 35 years. You wait till you see the before and after pictures of this thing coming up quite shortly. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Much appreciated. And as always, have a great day.